you light it on fire, all that THCA becomes THC. Okay, so that's decarboxylation, whether it's natural or whether you apply heat. So what these companies realized is if you cut the weed 2 weeks early, and when you hang it up to dry, you keep the room below 30% humidity and below 60 degrees, so low humidity and cool. They with their marketing, they call it cryo curing. I've seen them call it their cryo curing, but it prevents natural decarboxylation. So you're ending up with a bud from the cannabis sativa plant that is 35% THCA, but 0.2% THC because they've naturally
What do they call it?
They call it THCA hemp flower. You can buy it all over online. Like you can buy it online, shipped to your door.
It's just weed.
It's hemp and it's weed. It's just weed. Like they're going through all this obfuscation, and the way they did it was really quite brilliant.
What?
With they did Delta 8 and
local...
HHC and all these other cannabinoids, and they try to present THCA like it's another one of these HHCs or THCPs or one of these other cannabinoids that they found. Dude, it's real. It's nothing more than just straight up weed. It's the difference between a green tomato and a red tomato. That's the only difference.
Is this affecting the legal marijuana business at all? Like, I feel like this would blow everything up.
It's not taxed,
that's why the marijuana lobby has Florida making hemp illegal. This is why, because they figured this out. They're
wow.
So they're using government to shut down competition. Like they're literally lobbying to weaponize to shut down competition. It's bullshit.
Which is like directly against everything that weed lovers should stand for. That's fucking crazy.
Yeah,
it's crazy, guys. It's fucking crazy.
Yeah, that reminds me.
I'm gonna go back and go over this. So Trump actually legalized weed across the whole nation because of this
loophole. The THCA loophole is what I call it.
That's
the
insane.
THCA loophole.
That's insane.
Do you think he knows that he did that?
No.
No way.
No way.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I was wondering when like Delta 9 came on the market in New Jersey, where my family lives. I was like, oh.
Yeah, so Delta 9 is just weed. Delta 9 is just THC.
Right, yeah. It gets so fucked up.
But because of the legal definition, the same way it applies to flower, right? Like that's the way they cryo cure flower to be able to sell buds to people legally, right? But the way the word is written, that's how they basically got edibles legal throughout the country, right? So they look at it and they're like, well, oh, you want a 10 milligram edible? How heavy do we have to make the gummy? Or how heavy do we have to make the chocolate so that the THC is under 0.3% by dry weight? So if you do that, you just, and if they ever change it and they're like, oh, you got to get to 0.1%. All you got to do is make the fucking gummy bigger. Same dosage of cannabis, bigger gummy. Now you've complied with the new law.
That's why it's so fascinating when you try to make a something like weed illegal. You have to define it. And how do you define it? Do you define it chemically, biologically? Like what? How do you define it? You know. Yeah. And this is an example of how it cannot be defined. Yeah, I love it. I love that.
They defined it wrong and accidentally legalized weed.
Yeah.
So exactly. You know, you got to think like me in North Carolina. I look at it and the thought of legalizing it. To me, I'm almost against legalizing at this point, right? Because I'd much rather fight for decriminalization because right now in the current situation, if they legalize it, what does that mean? It means they're going to tax it. So I'm going to pay more for it.
Yeah. And
right now I just pay normal sales tax because it's just a hemp product.
Same with psilocybin. Honestly, I think it should be decriminalized, not legalized so that it's just taken over by pharmaceutical companies and literally destroyed. Like the way it is now.
Is it anyway though? Like weed, psilocybin, like how arrogant is it of a human being to be like, you can't have this plant that was bought, you know, that you can't have this plant that grows naturally, that was growing long before we existed and will be here long after we're gone as a species.
It's fucked. You're right. You're right.
It's ridiculous on its face, yet 350 million people, we just accept it that it's normal. Oh, the government says you can't grow this plant.
Yeah, and it's because of the insane propaganda that the generations above us grew up with. Ridiculous. And it's trickled down into us. And it's just about fucking breaking out of that way of thinking, which can be applied to literally all of our belief systems. But still, you're right. I mean, how dare you mandate something about a natural biological thing that no one owns?
It's arrogant. It's really
yeah.
arrogant.
Exactly.
So I didn't do a ton of research on the podcast. I noticed you guys normally keep it around an hour. I don't have a set schedule, but any other topics you guys want to hit on?
We're ready to we can wrap up then too. We'd love to
unless
have
there's
you.
anything that you feel strongly about that you want to touch on.